When I was writing the analysis for why the ending to Mr. Queen wasn't satisfying, I noticed a few details in the final episode that made me rethink the whole series. There were many definitive dialogue and deliberate acting choices that hint towards So Yong being conscious the whole time Bonghwan is in control of her body, and this changes a lot of things. After some investigation and rewatching, I came up with the theory that Bonghwan was never in love with Kim Choljeong, but it was actually So Yong's affections and active control that influenced Bonghwan's actions as Kun Chorin. And to prove this, let's first discuss the mechanics of the body switch in Mr. Queen.
예?
그리 소중한 딸 몸에 웬 시커먼 놈 영혼이 들어앉은 걸 알면 얼마나 속상하겠어.
The mechanics of body possession was never really blatantly discussed in the show. There were a few mentions of it, but the showrunners never filled us in with the definitive backstory. Before the final episodes, I had two assumptions of the body possession magic in Mr. Queen. That one, So Yong has passed on to the other side, or two, it's a soul switch. Bonghwan is in So Yong's body, and So Yong is in Bonghwan's body. But of course, if you watch the whole series, you'll know that it wasn't any of the two, because So Yong's soul becomes resurrected again and is revealed to be hiding this whole time. And so, with the first two lines So Yong utters when she awakens, it is revealed that it was actually a soul takeover instead of a soul swap. The first line we hear from So Yong when she gets back to her current timeline is, "He's gone. He isn't there anymore." This means that So Yong had some form of consciousness while Jo Bonghwan inhabited her body and was experiencing all the events with Jo Bonghwan simultaneously. This is evidenced by the actions of So Yong when she fully becomes conscious and didn't show any signs of confusion nor disorientation. She was also able to automatically decide on her next actions pertaining to the antagonists in the series. Not only that, it also hints that she had some capacity to choose to allow Bonghwan to pilot her body by handing over the driver's seat or by going into hiding. So ultimately, we can deduce that there are two souls in the same body, and the possible mechanics are somehow similar to the style of the James McAvoy movie Split, where So Yong gives up the driver's seat to Bonghwan and takes on a passive state. Knowing this, if So Yong had been awake this whole time, does that mean she had influence on Bonghwan's decisions in the series? And I think this could be the case. In episode 7, after Bonghwan collapses in the royal kitchen and falls into a vegetative state, So Yong's soul, who had been missing in action in prior episodes, activates and starts to become more involved. Not only in this episode did Bonghwan start having a woman's voice for his internal monologues.
항상 마음이 안 좋았어. 라는 생각이 드네?
But he also felt first-hand feelings of So Yong to the extent of saying it aloud and involuntarily. In my first viewing, I assumed that this was just Bonghwan regaining So Yong's memories through reflexes, particularly through his sense of smell. However, there were times when he recalled So Yong's memories without smelling anything. In episode 13, he completely recalls So Yong's memories of the day she attempted to take her own life without any smells. Rather, it was So Yong's soul actively imparting the memories to him. I theorized that she didn't just pass on his memories to him, but it was also So Yong forming this connection with Bonghwan.
소영아,
왜 내게 항상 중전이 되어 가문과 아비의 자랑이 되라 말하셨습니까? 왜 내게 중전만 되면 뭐든 할 수 있다 말하셨습니까? 어머님의 죽음에 대한 죄책감으로 몸부림치는 내게 왜 자꾸만 당신의 꿈을 말하셨습니까? 내가 무슨 심정으로 그날 밤 호수에 몸을 던졌는지 아십니까? 여태 내 삶이라 여겨왔던 것이 전부 거짓이다. 내가 꾸어온 꿈조차 내 것이 아니다. 나는 모든 것을 실패했다. 그래서 나를 버린 겁니다.
Notice how Bongwan uses pronouns such as I or me, unlike in the first few episodes where he uses phrases such as this woman. This implies that the two souls of Bongwan and So Yong is now fully linked to each other, that Bongwan can now empathize and even completely feel So Yong's emotions as if it is his. So every time So Yong activates and links with Bongwan, the romantic plot in Mr. Queen takes an upward trajectory. An example in episode 8, after Bongwan recalls So Yong's childhood, he experiences a spontaneous feeling of affection towards Choljeong. It seems like something is taking over him and he is out of control for a brief moment. And then he lashes out, and so we get dialogues like this.
꺼져 김소영. 내 몸에서 아니 네 몸에서 당장 나가.
As comedic as this scene is, I believe this might be a clue that it is actually So Yong expressing affection to Choljeong rather than Bongwan in romantic scenes. The trajectory of romantic scenes continue in episode 8, and it has the same kind of pattern. Bongwan experiences a spontaneous out-of-body feeling of affection, and then he lashes out on So Yong in a comedic fashion. In the same manner, So Yong is also able to take over Bongwan's sexuality when he is in a weakened state of mind. If we inspect the intimate scenes in Mr. Queen, Bongwan is almost always drunk. In scenes such as in episode 8 where they share their first kiss, there is that momentary pause before Bongwan kisses the king back. This could be So Yong taking over. And then of course he suddenly wakes up and regains control, stopping the physical intimacy between So Yong and the king. In episode 13, however, after Bongwan and So Yong formed their bond in that lake, plus Bongwan's drunkenness, So Yong was able to take over completely through the whole night and was even able to trick Bongwan into thinking he spent the night with Honghyun. Scenes such as this.
안 되는 거잖아. 영혼이 몸의 주인이 아닌 거야? 아니면 영혼도 몸도 모두 주인이 아닌 거야? 인간은 그저 호르몬의 노예일 뿐인 거야?
Was of course written to give us comedy, but it could also be the writers giving us hints that it was So Yong taking over whenever there is a romantic scene in Mr. Queen. And after rewatching the whole series with this in mind, you start to notice some deliberate dialogue or acting choices that might support this theory. If this theory is true, it does give us a softer landing to the disappointing ending of Mr. Queen. It does give you a sense of connection to the conclusion of the romance of So Yong the king and Bongwan. That in the end, Bongwan admired King Choljeong for his care and passion for his people, but not as a lover. It was So Yong that loved the king this whole time. But of course, it's a completely different story with King Choljeong, as he did fall in love with Bongwan's weird antics and strangely virtuous behavior, no matter how much you look at it. But in the end, I am happy for So Yong for ending up with the king. To force a romance on Bongwan, who might not have harbored any feelings towards the king, might ultimately have been more of an injustice to our beloved hero.